Hey y'all. Today is it's been kind of crazy. The last couple of days have been I don't know, trying for me. Felt myself dipping back into a place that I haven't been in a long time. So I was accused for, I guess, like not being authentic, right? If anything that I am, I'm transparent. Everybody who knows me knows that I'm transparent. So today I'm going to tell my testimony fully. And there's going to be a lot of people who don't agree. It's going to be a lot of people who's like, well, you shouldn't air your dirty laundry. It's going to be a lot of people that's going to who laugh, who's going to talk about it, who's going to, send it to their friends and group chats. It's going to be all of that. But you know what? I don't care, because we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So I'm going to tell mine, and I'm going to take y'all on this journey with me. And I'm going to be me. I'm going to be a lady. And I'm going to do my hair. And just talk. So, suffering is something that I know quite a bit about. Seems like all my life, that's what I've had to endure, some shape, some form. At 16, my boyfriend Rodney passed away in his sleep. He was my first everything, my first love for sure. And, I was 16. And I don't think I didn't know how to handle that, but I did. And I got through it. After that, there was a little bit more. I met my second love. His name was John. He's the father of my oldest two kids. We got together. I was getting ready to almost was 17 and a half or something like that. My 11th grade year, high school. And he was opposite of me. I was the smart girl, from a nice neighborhood or whatever. But John was from around the way, small town, Roanoke, Virginia. But it's kind of, it's got its moments, y'all. Like, don't sleep on Roanoke, okay? He was in the street life and whatnot, and I just wasn't having it. So I was like, look, to be with me, you're going to have to change this. But of course, it was a process, so it didn't happen like right away. But we were in love, right? He was my everything, and it was hard being his girlfriend. So I had to compete with everybody else, right? But I knew he loved me. He just slept around. Let's keep it 100. He was horrible. The worst boyfriend you can ever have. He did things that I just was like, boy, why would you do that? Like, it just was ridiculous. But he proposed to me, and I'm summing all of this up, right? He proposed to me. We had a daughter, my oldest daughter. I had her my senior year. I was pregnant, and I had her like literally 2 days before graduation. I left the hospital to go to my graduation, and I walked across the stage. It was cool. People stood up and gave me a standing ovation, right? I was determined not to get behind. And he was still fighting the demon. He was a good guy. He was still fighting the street life. And I realized that, I was going to have to leave. I went to college for a little bit, but being away from my daughter, and it was just too much. So I ended up coming back home after a semester at Radford University. And, I had a little small duplex, and me, my daughter, and John. And, it was just hard, man. Like, the women also didn't stop, but I knew he loved me. He just didn't know how, right? So, and I'm young and stupid. So I decided, you know what? Right after we got married, we literally got married on June 25th, 2001. And he was facing a charge. And God was good, though, because he could have gotten 10 years, but he ended up getting 10 years suspended after 10 months in these programs, right? So it was divine. So he had 10 months to do, in these, it's called detention and diversion. Kind of like boot camp, and was one part of it, and then the second part was where he like learned a trade and stuff like that. So it was really good for him. But I realized when he come home, if I didn't do something, we're going to go back to the same life. So I decided to go into the Air Force. Literally just so that my new husband can come back to something and have a chance, right? We could have a chance. 19, with a 1-year-old, I go off basic training, and I do that while he's, finishing up his program. So it worked out that right when I finished my technical training, the school and everything, that I came home, and he was right when he came home. So we were like home right at the same time, and it was such this big union, and we had to get his, paid all his fines up front like that day. It was like, I remember it was $900 fines. We paid it all right there, and we left from there and went to his PO and all that good stuff, and told him I was in the military and I had an assignment to Utah. Yes, there's black people in Utah, believe it or not, native. Who knew? And when we went to, we got it worked out. He had to get an interstate compact, so I had to go first to get, a place to live, and then so we can submit an address. And God worked it all out. Came out there. I was there 3 weeks. He came 3 weeks later. We figured it out, man. And it was tough. It was hard. And it went well for a little while, but before I know it, it was back to the same old stuff. Constant lying and cheating and all that stuff. So, but anyway, I fast forward, he gets a chick pregnant. I mean, y'all listen, it was terrible. It was terrible. While we got pregnant with our second child, our son, and he gets a chick pregnant back home, visiting, right? It just was devastating, man. It was just like, God, why? So we go out to Japan, and that was after we went to Utah. And after my time in Utah, I got an overseas assignment to Okinawa, Japan, and all of it was just so crazy because all of this stuff was still going on, but it is what it is. And I'm speeding this up just because I got so much more suffering to get through. But after all of that, we're in Japan. We're trying to, he's trying to save his marriage. He wants us and all this stuff. So things are right. But of course, he goes back to what he always is and do the things he always do. And, it was just woman after woman, just craziness. I deployed. It didn't stop. More lying, cheating, craziness. And then finally on the second deployment, I had just had enough, right? And one of the chicks that he was messing with this time was kind of crazy because me and her knew each other from, which, I mean, that wasn't the crazy part. He's messed with plenty of people that I knew, friends of mine, he was trifling. But this particular one, me and her had a very different encounter with each other that happened back when I was in the 6th grade and she was in the 7th grade. she ended up on my school bus, which, she wasn't a normal rider on my school bus coming home, and she was crying, and she just was, my stop was like one of the last stops. And so, I was like, hey, and I won't say her name, just out of decency, but I was like, hey, what's where do you live at? Like, this is the last stop, and I don't remember seeing you on here before. And she was crying and whatnot, and she was just like, I just can't go home. I'm running away. So I was like, what? No. Come to my house. So she comes to my house and tell me her story. And she had been sexually abused by some family members, or y'all, it was really bad. And my heart broke for her. So I called my mom. I'm like, we gotta do something. And yes, my mom always knows. She knows everybody, right? So she's like the epitome of resources. So called my mom. We did all of that, and she just pretty much just stayed with me for the weekend. It was like a holiday weekend, if I'm not mistaken, because we were out, like, it was like 4 days. So we were out like the following Monday. So it may have been like a teacher in service or work day or something. I don't know what I'm doing with my hair. I'm just doing something. But anyway, so that was our 4-day friendship. And when she left, she was like, you know what, I appreciate you, Kia, because I didn't have anywhere to go, and I just needed a break. And after that, I don't really remember all that happened. I know that she ended up going with an aunt, or she went somewhere else, and I didn't really hear from her for the next, couple years. Like, we fast forward to now we're grown, and I'm out in Japan, and I'm deployed, and my husband's at home, and he bumps into this girl, and somehow or another, they ended up in the whole relationship while I was deployed. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was foolishness. Like, this is my husband, y'all. And yeah, man, it was bad. It was bad. Lies for his part, but she knew he was married, so it wasn't like, she wasn't in the know, because she was like friends with his sister, so she knew. So he comes back to Japan. They're still talking and just disrespectful. She got to the point where she was just calling the house, because remember the Vantage phones to get the stateside number. She was just calling this phone, and when I would answer, she'd be like, "B, go put my man on the phone." And I was like, God, I'm all the way in Okinawa, Japan, and I was like, I'm going to kill her. But I felt hopeless. I couldn't do anything because I was so far away. And that went on for months, just months. And then finally, I was just so fed up. I just didn't care. I started drinking, partying. I started doing me. Like, I was like, I'm so done with him. Like, I'm so done with this. And then I remember one day, I was going to do makeup, right? One day, I was in the shower, and I was just singing, and like I normally do, just in worship, right? And the Lord just started to speak to me, and he was just like, encourage her. And I was like, what? Encourage who? He's like, encourage her. And I'm like, you talking about the mistress, the girlfriend? Encourage her. And so I was like, absolutely not. You tripping. You are clearly drunk or high out your mind. Like, this is what I'm saying to God, y'all. I was in a bad headspace. I was young too, in my early 20s. But I was like, oh, I refused for 2 weeks. I would not pray. I would not contact. I would not do it. And God just plagued me with thoughts of her and her children. And so much stuff started to happen. So, like, in that season, while they were doing what they do, I was being elevated. I won awards at work. I made staff sergeant the first time without even studying. I won like MagCom awards. They flew me to like Hawaii. Like I was just just being elevated. My heart was in a million pieces, but I was being elevated, and so I went, doing well and everything. But she, on the other hand, was dissolving. She lost custody of her kids. Like, she lost her place. She lost her car. She lost her job. Like, everything started to fail. And I was like, touch not mine, nor to do my prophet no harm. But God said, pray for her, encourage her. And I was like, this is stupid. So after 2 weeks of no sleep, being whooped by the Holy Spirit, all I could think about was this girl and her kids. I finally reached out through email, and I was like, look, the Lord told me to contact you, and I don't know, to encourage you. I don't know what's all going on or whatever. But I remember you, right? This was my weekend friend, right? I met on the bus years prior. And I was like, if you need to talk, I'm here. She emailed me maybe the next day. I got the email, and she was like, I'm so sorry, Kia. I never forgot that day either. I never forgot what you did for me all those years ago. And we talked for 30 days, and I encouraged her. I prayed for her kids. I connected her with my sister, who was also a minister, who was back home. And I tried my best to just minister. I just gave her what I had, and it wasn't a whole lot, but it was a little Jesus. And finally, like after 30 days, she had apologized, and she was like, I just don't know why. I love your husband. I mean, it was crazy, y'all. And he was like, why are you talking to her? That's just do da da da. And I was like, you think I felt so stupid, y'all. I felt so just like a throw rug, like that was being beaten. But I did it. And he saw it. And I had to deploy again. So after that, like 30 days after of that, I had to deploy. I forget, maybe a couple months later it was. But anyway, I deployed again. And by this time, John and I are, we're getting a divorce. We're going through the process of divorce. And I hadn't heard anything from her, and it had been months. You know what I'm saying? Like, I hadn't heard anything. And then I got an email from John and said, hey, I need you to call me ASAP. So I called him. I was like, what's going on? And he was like, you're never gonna guess what just happened. It's crazy. He said, but when I heard about it, the first thing I thought about was you. I was like, what you talking about? What happened? She was like, yo, and I'm just for the sake of her privacy, I'm gonna just call her Susie. Susie was killed in a car accident. She was with her fiance. I think the kids were okay, but she didn't make it. And I just heard God say, you had to encourage her. And all I could do was like give God praise. And I was like, God, I didn't understand. I'm like, surely you could have had me intercede any other kind of way. Like, why did it have to be where she was sleeping with my husband? Like, so much pain that I went through. But he said, because now she knows a glimpse of me that she wouldn't have gotten any other way. She had to see that Christ, even though we crucified him, that he loved us. And he encourages us. And he loved us no matter what. So she had to see that in me, because she knew better than I did what she was really doing and all what's going on between her and my husband. So me ministering to her, it had to be only God could do that. And I don't know where her state was, but I did hear that she was doing well. She had her kids back. She was working, had a place. She was getting married. She was in church. So I praise God for that. And then 6 months later, John was killed, gunned down in the bottom of the hill of the apartments where he was living at home. Shot by a stranger who was in a domestic dispute that he had nothing to do with. It was crazy. And I'm like, God, why do you allow so much suffering for me? Because he put me through so much more that I won't disclose that much because that's a little bit too transparent, but it was really bad. And then time goes on, and while I'm going through the murder trial, right, a good friend of mine that I had met in one of my deployments, you know, I had just gotten stationed stateside, so I was in North Carolina, so he was in North Carolina at the time too, so he was like, yo, I'm right here, whatever, so we kind of connected, and things kind of took off, and he and I, you know, started talking. It was, you know, we already were cool and stuff, so we kind of got into and started dating. He was very helpful, man of God, you know, preacher, all the way preacher. And we, shortly after that, we began to date, and it was great. Like, our families connected, and we like intertwined, and it was like we were ordained to be together. Like, I had prayed about it, like, and I'm some of this, y'all gonna get my book, right? Letters to God. This is gonna have all of this in my whole story, but anywho, so go on, and he and I get together, and we, you know, the first year was great, and then the second year, you know, we was apart from each other a lot, so we had a lot of problems, communication and whatever, and but we still was very, very, very much in love. We were, he had proposed. It was a beautiful proposal. And we were planning to get married in December of 2010. And I ended up getting pregnant in 2000, that same year, like around October. And it was kind of crazy because we were still kind of dealing, like, I had a lot of stuff, a lot of hurt and healing and expectation of loss, because that's all I knew at this point, you know what I mean? Like, I've lost 2 loves of my life right there and then. I was afraid to even love him. I had to pray about it, and God gave me in a dream. He said the third one I would not take. So I was like, okay, it's gotta be it, God. And then I have a molar pregnancy, a miscarriage, and I found out early on, but I couldn't. They were waiting for me to pass it naturally, and I didn't. So I carried a dead, not growing fetus in my body for 5 months. And then in January, I had to have a surgery, the DNC, to take out the placenta and the dead, you know, mass and everything. And it was just horrible. And my husband, well, we didn't get married. Booba, I'm not right now. I'll come get you later. It's my baby. He didn't come. Like, he separated himself from me and the baby, and like, for whatever reason, he couldn't deal and I couldn't deal, and it was just like I did it all by myself, and it did something to me. It broke me. That loss broke me on another level. And she'll be fine. My mom's out there. So we break up and whatnot, and it just was hard. So I'm gonna zip through that as well. A couple years go by, we just, you know, just hard with it, you know what I mean? But that was 2011. We did, you know, for like 2 years. We did, you know, we weren't dating. We would talk here and there, see each other maybe here and there, but we moved on. But we still loved each other, you know. And somehow 2013, We reconciled. We ended up getting married. But we were still separated because he was in a different branch, and it was just crazy. And during that time of separation or whatever, breakup, he had another baby, and he got the other baby real quick. Ryan, stop it! No. This is ridiculous, right? I can't even tell my testimony. Let me deal with this. Y'all stay tuned. I'll come back and finish it.